Meet me. Welcome back, guys. So, we've had a huge controversy in the community, and I keep getting spammed with messages about this whole counter set debacle. I know a lot of other people have put their 2 cents into it, but people wanted to hear my take because I think I'm one of the more, let's say, level headed members of the community, perhaps a Smilegate apologist, but in general, I think I'm pretty fair. So, what is, and by the way, this is a chat thing, so whatever's in the background probably isn't going to matter much, right? So, anyways, what is the counter set debacle? Well, it's a kind of a big deal, right? Because apparently, now it says 30%, right? But anyone who's been playing this game for a long time knows that this tooltip used to say counter set is a 20% chance to counterattack. Now, apparently, the entirety of Epic 7's history, this has actually been a 30% chance. And this has the community up in an uproar. Smilegate's a bunch of filthy liars, they screwed us over, yada yada yada. And obviously, personally, I feel like that's all a load of complete crap. And I'll explain why. This is really not a freaking big deal at all. Epic 7 has always had a lot of criers in the community. It's really no big deal. Try to stay away from the Reddit scum. So let's just go into topics. So topic number one, we're going to talk about counterset bug. Is it a big deal? Topic number two, are Smilegate filthy liars? Topic number three, why you should pray that Smilegate keeps screwing up. And topic number four, why it's also a failing of the community. Let's get started. Alright, so topic number one, counterset bug. Is it a big deal? And first let's talk about, is 30% and 20% different? Obviously, yes. It's a big deal. It's a huge difference. It's 50% more counters than we actually thought was happening, right? But the reason I think it's not that big of a deal is internally we all kind of knew, right? Everyone always said 20% BS. Like, we're countering all the time. The enemy defense counters all the time. People even were saying that defense teams are coded to counter more than when you're on offense. It was always known. And the thing is, when I joined the game, I remember thinking counterset looked like ass, right? I don't know if anyone else felt the same way, but I was like, 20% chance to counterattack? That's less than one full rotation of your entire team. Why would anyone want to use this over having a permanent 25% speed buff or permanent, I don't know, extra critical hit damage from destruction or something like that? Like, all the other sets just seemed so much stronger than counter set. But what happened? In practice, it was really good, right? Like, when you put stuff on counter, it could win you a bunch of games, and counter set actually became popular, even on heroes that don't necessarily have great mechanics that go along with counter. So I feel like implicitly, we all knew it was a little bit stronger than 20%. We all referenced that number, but if it was actually 20%, I don't think anyone would have actually really used it. I think everyone thought it was more than 20% anyway, even though we had no proof. And, we all talked about that 20% number when we RTA'd and we said, oh, he only had a 1 in 5 chance to counter me. But we were always scared to hit that. Like, 1 in 5 is not a lot, but weren't you always scared to hit a hero that was on counter set because you expected it to happen? I know I was. Now let's talk about some arguments that people are making why this is such a big deal. Like, number one, if I had known it was 30%, I would have farmed Banshee instead of Wyvern. That's stupid as hell. No, you wouldn't have. No, you wouldn't have. Like, first of all, most people are farming speed sets, and 20% or 30% speed set is overall still better than counter set in the vast, well, let's not say the vast majority, the majority of situations. There are a lot of heroes that don't get any value from a counter set. So you can't feel bad about doing Wyvern. Even with this, you should be doing Wyvern anyway, right? Counter gaming is still good, but Wyvern is still very meta, and most Legend players will have way more people on speed sets than counter sets. So I think that's a garbage argument, and anyone who actually makes that argument probably doesn't do any serious RTA at all. Now, the other argument is I would have made different in-game decisions if I had known it was 30%. Again, no, you wouldn't have. That's all a crock of shit. People are like, oh, I'm doing all this math when I play RTA, and if I'd known it was close to 1 in 3 instead of 1 in 5, I wouldn't have attacked him, and I would have been the Legend player. No, you wouldn't have, dude. No, you wouldn't have. I mean, like I said before, if there's a hero on the other team, even when we assumed it was 20% that was on counter, you avoided the crap out of it, right? Like a Ravi. Like if there was other things to hit on the team, because it was, if you thought it was 30% instead of 20%, would you have still hit the Ravi? Probably not. Like that's not a decision that was made. Maybe 1 in a million cases you might have made that decision, but in general, no one was going to change their decision in an actual RTA match based on whether it was 20% or 30%. That's all a load of garbage. So, yeah, honestly, like the counter set bug, is it a big deal? Yeah, it's a big deal in the sense that, 20% and 30%, I'm not trying to downplay that that's a very huge difference in proc rate. It is. But what I'm trying to say is, from a top player perspective, this is the number that was in our heads anyway. If anything, when you play RTA as a top player, this number is 100%. You're basing your decisions a lot of times just assuming they're going to counter because you don't want it to happen. Unless the odds of hitting that other person, something about it is even worse. For the most part, this was enough of a deterrent anyway. In terms of farming, we were already farming. Top players were already farming Banshee anyway. For lifesteal set, excuse me, my voice is going. For lifesteal set and Banshee set and resist set is very good as well. So it really makes no difference. Let's move on to the next section. Topic number 2. Apologies for my voice. I've been fighting an infection. Is Smilegate a bunch of filthy liars? Now, this one actually kind of pisses me off because I actually think Smilegate is handling this very well, but our community is extremely childish and toxic sometimes. I actually think Smilegate is one of the best and most honest gotcha companies because what you guys are not thinking about is what a shadier company could have easily done in the situation. What has Smilegate actually done? They've owned up to their embarrassing mistake, they're giving us compensation, and they're fixing it. And they even went through all the code and reviewed every other because people are saying that, right? Like, if we can't trust this, what if everything else is wrong? Well, they're checking, and you could say that maybe they didn't even check it, but what we can do as a community is if you actually suspect something, we can actually check it ourselves now, right? Law of large numbers. I mean, it's boring, but it's definitely not hard to check. But I want to go back to what a shadier company would have done in this situation, instead of doing what Smilegate did, where they were very transparent, apologized, and told us what was going on. All they would have done is went back into that code, changed that 0.3 multiplier to 0.2, secretly patch it in the background, never tell anyone, and no one would ever know. We would all feel like Counterset is worse somehow, right? Kind of like back then when they nerfed the secret shop rates. We would feel like Counterset is not doing its job, but we would have no proof. So what would happen? Someone would be like, something's not right with Counterset. Let's do some testing. And with the law of large numbers, they could join an RTA game, keep track of the counter rates, just ask their friend to keep attacking their counter hero and do it for 10,000 hits. And what would the number inevitably go to? About 20%. With law of large numbers, eventually it would get around that 20%. And then they'd click on it and the tooltip would say 20% and they'd be like, huh. It feels like it's worse, but I guess it's right. It is right around 20%, so I guess I'm just imagining it. And we would never know. They could have done that, but they didn't. They didn't do that at all. That's a huge thing to note. Instead of fixing counter to match the tooltip that said 20%, they updated the tooltip to say 30%. Why? Because 30% is the number that we've been using for the entirety of Epic 7. They didn't want to change how the game actually worked. Even though this 20% was a number we were basing it off, Our decisions for the past 2 years have been based on it actually being 30%. This is huge because it means that Smilegate respects the game balance. High-end RTA has been balanced around this number. You know what would have been way worse? If they nerfed counterset to make it 20% to actually match the tooltip. That would have been a huge blow to high-end RTAers. That would have changed the game completely. It would have been a huge nerf to anyone who was a counter game. There are legend players who like to do more Banshee than Wyvern. I mean, it's probably like less than 5, but there are some. That would have probably knocked them out of contention entirely. That would have been massive. So I really love how instead of changing how the game worked, they just owned up to the mistake and fixed it to match the game, because this is how we've been playing the game anyway. So are Smilegate a bunch of filthy liars? No. If you want to make the argument that they're mildly incompetent for having missed this for so long, I can get on board with that. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing, but I get how it happened, right? Because it's been like this for the entirety of the game. It's probably just like one line of code somewhere in there, and probably because they weren't changing it, they had no reason to go back in and check. And who's going to sit there and actually run like 10,000 instances to check everything, right? So, I mean, yes, they should have caught this, but I get why they didn't. It's simply because they weren't looking. They weren't trying to lie to us or anything. But if you guys have ever coded anything before, like these things can be like hundreds of thousands of lines of code. Who sits there and goes back and checks random ones? I mean, ideally, they probably would have had like one parameters file that had all these kind of values in it, but who knows how they coded the game? None of us would know, unless you're like a hacker and like went into their headquarters or something. So no, I don't think they're liars. I think they're handling this very well. I think they're being very transparent. Is it embarrassing for them? Absolutely. They should have caught this. I'm not trying to give them any slack there, but the way they're handling it, regardless of the situation itself, the way they're handling it, I think is fantastic. Let's move on to the next topic. Now, topic number 3 is kind of a tangent, but why you should hope Smilegate keeps screwing up. Because again, fundamentally, nothing has changed in the actual game as a result of this, right? Other than the tooltip, the way stuff works is exactly the same, except for, I believe, like Purgis and Christie, where it was added. By the way, everyone knew that already. Like, you guys might not have known it because we don't run into Purgis anymore. Purgis was popular for a time, and everyone knew he had basically a 100% counter rate. So I don't think this is a new bug. Like, when you used to have Purgises on arena defense, literally they AoE countered every single time, and everyone was convinced that it was additive. So I don't know why that was a surprise. But anyways, the reason you should hope that Smilegate screws up is, let's go over it. Number 1, nothing has actually changed. Number 2, we're getting 2 equipment reforged chests, 30 charms, 2 Artanas equipment crafting events. So 2 pieces of potentially godly gear you can get for free. I believe close to 10 days of hunt event. That's a lot of crap to get, considering that literally nothing has actually changed. I hope that more tooltips in this game are completely wrong. I really do. Because every time Smilegate makes a mistake, even if they're completely irrelevant things that literally no one cared about, like this is a big one, I'm not trying to say it isn't, but remember the CDOM one where we got a CDOM recall and we were just like, okay, I mean, we'll take it, we'll take the selector, but we have no idea why you're even fixing this. Was anyone even complaining about it? So, like, they didn't even change a hero, they just changed, like, I don't even remember what the wording was that it changed to because it was so insignificant. But Smilegate has always given us compensation for stuff like this. So we should all pray that more things, like I hope the speed set is actually like 26% instead of 25%. We'll get 20 more days of hunt event. They'll cry on stream for us and we can laugh at them and it'll be hilarious. It's just a good time for everybody. So everyone should be praying that there are more things wrong with the game. We're just going to keep getting more free stuff, like way more free stuff than the situation actually warranted. So, Smilegate, feel free to make more mistakes, fire your QA team. We're all good. We're all good. Let's move on. And topic number 4, finally, is that it's not all Smilegate's fault. Well, it is, but it's also a failing of the community. Like I said, implicitly top players kind of knew that it was higher than 20%. Like, we didn't know for sure, right? Because we trusted the tooltip. I'm not trying to downplay that this is kind of an embarrassing mistake. But the thing is, if it was actually 20%, no one, that's 1 in 5, no one would have really used it. 30% is close to 1 in 3, that's pretty big. But the thing is, I bet someone in the community did check. Because it was obvious to most people that it procs a lot more than 1 in 5. Someone in the community probably did check, and they probably found a number to be closer to 30%. Again, law of large numbers. Like, if you do enough testing, eventually it'll be unusual if someone tested being hit 10,000 times and the number came out to 28% or 32%, and the actual number is supposed to be 20% statistically. That would be incredibly unusual. So somehow the community, I guess we don't have that many robust testers. Like, I know some people do, because I remember there was someone who did a huge spreadsheet of secret shop drop rates. I actually kind of did that myself too in one of my really old videos to try and guess the rates of mystics and stuff. But, probably just because it's a pain to test this, right? But how did we not notice? Now, my argument is we kind of did. We just didn't have proof. But we built units around a higher number. But we're all in an uproar saying, how did Smilegate not know? How did Smilegate not know? We didn't either. This is not a hard thing to test. No one cared to do it. Or maybe more accurately, whoever cared to do it, no one listened to them and no one gave a crap. They were just like, you're crazy. The tooltip says 20%, it's 20%. So, yeah, we should have realized this too. And again, like I'm saying, implicitly, many of us did. We didn't have any proof, we didn't know for sure, but we built our units around the idea that units counter a lot more than 20%. And now we find out that we were right. Because 20%, honestly, is pretty garbo. Which is why, again, I'm saying I'm so happy that they actually upped the tooltip instead of nerfing it down to the actual number. Yeah. And I think that's pretty much it. So to conclude my thoughts on this whole debacle, let's just summarize into points. Number one, is it an embarrassing mistake? Yeah, Smilegate should be a little bit, I don't know about if ashamed is the right word, but embarrassed that such a big mistake could go unmissed for so long. On the flip side, kind of get how it happens. It's probably literally 3 characters of code in millions of characters of code, just changing a 0.3 to a 0.2. So I get why they wouldn't go, I'm sure they don't go back and review every line of code in the history of E7 on a weekly basis or something, because that's what some of the Redditors would expect. Number 2, has it actually changed anything? No. It hasn't changed anything. The people that weren't farming Banshee, they're full of crap. They weren't going to have farmed Banshee if they knew it was 30%. All the top players were already using counterset anyway. From a current meta standpoint, the heroes that were good on counter were already on counter. So again, doesn't really change a whole lot. Next point, do I think Smilegate is handling it well? I think they're handling it very professionally. They're probably super embarrassed about the whole thing. But the most important thing to me about a company is transparency. Because I can forgive people making mistakes, right? As long as they own up to it and they're telling me what they're going to do about it. And that's exactly what they did. They owned up to the mistake. They apologized. They're giving us a ton of stuff as compensation. My question to the community who's in an outrage is, what more do you want them to do? Would you rather they have lied to us? Would you rather they have stealth fixed it and not told us? I don't get what these people want Smilegate to have done in this bad situation. They took a bad situation. They're making a best effort to fix it. I think they're handling it very well. For all the whiners out there, I just want to know, what do you want them to do? Because there's always going to be those idiots who are we need 20 ML5 selectors. This isn't enough. And it's just shut the hell up. You suck at the game. Just uninstall at this point. That's my stance on those kind of people. I don't really get what you want them to do that they aren't doing already. And finally, for the people who are saying that this somehow makes the game garbage, it's ridiculous. Literally nothing. If you liked the game before this came out, literally nothing mechanically from a gameplay perspective has changed. Everything is still exactly the same. They're just telling us information about a bug that existed. It's not like a switch flipped and then suddenly the game went from perfectly fine to extremely terrible because a tooltip was updated. So that's my stance on this whole thing. I think everyone needs to relax, enjoy your free stuff. If you do think that there's something in the game where the statistics seem kind of wrong, instead of complaining about it, set up an RTA lobby with your friends, test it out. Maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. But the thing is, if it was a big enough difference to actually have an impact on the meta, trust me, it would be in the meta, kind of like how Counterset is. We kind of made it popular because it procced a lot more than 20%. So, anyways, that's my thoughts on this whole thing. I'm sure, given the number of people complaining, people are just going to blast me and say, "Oh, you're a Smilegate employee," blah blah blah. No, I'm a player who's played this game a lot. I know what's a big deal. I know what's not a big deal. This is not a big deal. Nothing has actually changed. People like YouTubers out there are probably going to clickbait for views and be like, "Smilegate is terrible. They lied to us this whole time." Like probably the shittier YouTubers out there. And my argument to them is quit the game. Quit the game. It's fine. Just leave. Like that's my general answer to stuff like that. Like, because again, if you're going to complain, please suggest what Smilegate should do. And like the ones that are complaining are probably the bad players like Mango anyway. So, anyways, what are your own thoughts on this whole debacle? Feel free to share it in the comments below. Do you think I missed anything? Do you actually think Smilegate is scummy? And if so, why? I'm all open for open debate. This is just my personal thoughts on it. Like, I guess I'm not offended very easily. I'm very forgiving of mistakes as long as they are transparent about it, accept it, apologize. And I feel like that's all the stuff that Smilegate has done. I don't think they're trying to lie to us. So I strongly disagree that they lied to us. If you want to make the argument that they were really stupid to have missed this, I can get on the boat with that. I can agree with that. But the idea that they're lying to us, like, I don't really get from the situation what they actually lied about. They were just dumb. Like, you can't, send people to prison for being dumb. You could send them to prison for being lying, depending on the context. So, anyways, leave your comments below. Hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, peace out, boys.